haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Nun Tes Amud Beis. Starting Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. The Gemara quotes the Mishnah as saying the extra blood from the inner Mizbeach, that will then be put in the Yesoid Maravi of the outer Mizbeach, whereas the additional blood of the outer Mizbeach will be placed in the Yesoid Deroimi of the outer Mizbeach. But then the Mishnah concludes, Eilu ve'eilu, both these and those, both bloods, will then be put into the canal, the Amas Hamayim, that will lead into the Nachal Kidroin. The Mishnah then says, it will be sold to those gardeners for fertilizer. Whereby the Mishnah then concludes, if it was not bought by the gardeners and they used that blood, then they would be chayiv mi'ila umoyalim bohen. Explains the Gemara, Eilu ve'eilu mis'arvim ba'am v'yotzim v'chulei. Tonu Rabban bring the following brayso. Moyalin bedomim divrei Rabbi Meir Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Meir Rabbi Shimon, they are of the opinion that we are mo'alin bedomim. If they would take that blood and not pay for it, then there would be an issue of mi'ila. Mi'ila means taking that which is sanctity and using it for personal use. V'chachamim oimrim ein moyalin bohen. We do not have mi'ila in those bloods. Top of Nun Tes Amud Beis. The Gemara explains this machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. Ad kan loy pligi. Ella b'drabanan, aval midiraisa ein moyalim bohen. This machlokes that Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir say there is me'ila, that's only on a drabanan level. That means that they'd have to pay keren, but there's not going to adding a chomish and certainly not going to bring a carbon me'ila. Because the rabbanan is not midiraisa, the me'ila of damim. Minohani Mili asked the Gemara, where do we know this is so, that there's no mi'ila di'araisa for damim? Says the Gemara, Amar Ula. Now there's a pasuk that the Gemara will bring to darshan why this is so. I want to read you the pasuk. The pasuk states, Ki nefesh habosar badam, that the nefesh of the basar is in its blood. Who? Va'ani nesativ lochem ala mizbeach lechaper al nafshosechem. And I, Hashem says, have given it to you to be put on the mizbeach as an atonement for yourselves, for your nefesh. Ki dadam hu ba nefesh yichaper. Because the dam is going to then be an atonement for this soul, for the nefesh. Now the Gemara quotes this pasuk and darshans to explain why we know that there's no mi'ila when it comes to damim. First, Ula. Omar Ula. Omar Kra, the pasuk that we just quoted, says the word lachem. It says the word lachem to you. I gave it to you, Hashem says. Shelachem ye, that it should be yours. And therefore, it's not off limits to be kachim, that is going to be a chiyuv me'ila. It's going to be yours, the blood. That's the way Ula explains. Rabbi Shimon Tano, they taught lechaper. It says in the pasuk lechaper. It should be used as an atonement. Lekapora nasati v'loy lemi'ila. I gave you this dam as a kapor, as an atonement, and not to then have me'ila. Rabbi Yochanan Omar Kro. Rabbi Yochanan learns the pasuk says who. It's in the pasuk who ki adam hu ba nefesh yichaper, that the dam is going to be an atonement for the soul. Lifnei kapara kila achar kapara, just as after the kapara is going to be an atonement that will not have me'ila, so too before. Ma la'achar kapara ein boy me'ila, and therefore does not have me'ila. Af lifnei kapara ein boy me'ila, so too even before the kapara, it will also not carry with it a penalty of mi'ila. The Gemara asks on this last drasha, Rabbi Yochanan explains it, that it says who, and he wants to say who kilhavayosoi tehei. It should be in its state, a continuation of its state, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan learned that just like after the kapara, so too before the kapara. Ask the Gemara, let's go the opposite way, however. We can say the same thing. If it has to be in its continued state, then let's Eimo la'achar kapara kelifnei kapara. The after kapara should be like before. Ma lifnei kapara yesh boy me'ila, af la'achar kapara yesh boy me'ila. In the same way that before the kapara there is me'ila, we'll say even after the kapara there is me'ila. So Gemara challenges this. If you're going to say again that drasha is from the word who, and who, like Rashi speaks out, is hu kahaviyosoi, so then it have to be in its continued state. So we can say that the same way that before the kapara there's me'ila, so too after the kapara is the me'ila. The Gemara answers by saying, "Ein lecha davar shenas is mitzvasu umayalim boy." We don't have something that you, after performing its mitzvah, will have then the me'ila, and therefore you have to go with Rabbi Yochanan's drasha that said before, and say in his direction. Just as after the kapara there is no me'ila, so too, who is teaching me that it's a continuous state even when it is before the kapara there's no me'ila? The Gemara, however, challenges this and says, is it so that we find that after the mitzvah is performed, there's no me'ila? V'lo yas the Gemara. V'harei, trumas hadeshen. Trumas hadeshen is separating the deshen in the morning, the first avoida of the boiker of the day, and that is taking the ashes from the previous day's karbonos and taking some of it, a shovelful, off the mizbeach and putting it on the floor to the east of the Mizbech, onto the floor of the Azara. There, the Gemara says that we find that becomes off limits. If a person wanted to then take, let's say a Kohen wanted to take some of those ashes and cover up spit with it for personal use, it's Aser Bahana, B'chayiv Mi'ila. On top of Samech Amid Aleph, the Gemara says, why can't you learn from here that from Trumas Hadeshen would be a precedent teaching us that indeed even after the mitzvah is performed, then there still is me'ila? Because mishum dahave trumas hadeshen ubigdei kahuna shnei ksuvin haboin ke'echad. There are two places that imply that there is, it's even after the mitzvah, it's off limits, and therefore would be chayiv me'ila. One that we just said, trumas hadeshen. There's a second place in Gabe, the bigdei kahuna of the Kohen Gadol, the 4 white vestments that he wears on Yom Kippurim. After Yom Kippurim, they have to then be put into Geniza. If a person uses them, then he's going to be Chayiv Mi'ila. And since they're in 2 places, we have a principle called Shnei Ksuvim Haboin Ke'echad Ein Melamdim. If the Torah only write it in one place, we can say that's the paradigm to use for everything else and learn out from there. But once the Torah writes it in 2 different places, it means to say that it's only in these 2 places and not to be learned out to other places. Because if not, just learn it, just have the Torah should just write it in one place and we'll learn everything out from there. The fact that the Torah had to write a second time teaches me specifically in these 2 places. So too over here. In regards to the fact that a mitzvah was performed and there's mi'ila, that's by 1, the Trumas Hadeshen, and 2, it's written in regards to the Bigdei Kahuna. And therefore you cannot learn out anywhere else, including our case of Dam. The Gemara says, but wait a second. Hanich rabbanon de amrei v'hinicham sham melame shituun in Geniza. That's very good according to the opinion of the Rabbanon that say that after the usage of these 4 big day kahuna of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, it has to be put into Geniza, then it's going to be off limits. If a person does use it, then he'll be chayiv mi'ila. Ella l'Rebbe Doisa, Domer Big Day Kuna Ru'uyin Hein Lekoin Hedyot, Ma'ika Lemeima. But we learned in the first and second parak that there's an opposing opinion, Rabbi Doisa, that says that after the Kohen Gadol uses these 4 white vestments on Yom Kippurim, they could be used by a Kohen Hedyot during the rest of the year. So therefore, what are you going to say? Now we're only left with 1 pasuk, and that 1 pasuk therefore should be a paradigm, namely Trumas Hadeshen, for everything else, including our case of Dam, that even after the kapara, we should say that it is chayev mi'ila, whereby even before the kapara, it would be chayev mi'ila. Just like before the kapara is chayev mi'ila, so do after the kapara is chayev mi'ila. Ella, the Gemara says, Mishum dahave trumas hadeshin ve'egla arufa shnei ksuvim haboin ke'echod. We have 2 psukim. We have the pasuk of Egla Arufa and Trumas Hadeshin. By Egla Arufa, the decapitated calf, when a dead body is found and is not known who the murderer was. So we then count to the nearest city, and there's a ceremony that takes place whereby we take an egel by the nachal and we decapitate it and make a declaration. The elders, the Kanim, the Chacham of the city, make a declaration that they are innocent from the blood of this one who was found. Whereby we say that if indeed this egla arufa is used subsequently for personal use, it will be chayiv mi'ila. And that's written there, and it's also written by Tumas Hadeshin. And then, we can't learn that out to our case of dam. The Gemara says, Hanich leman da'omar. Ein malamdin. Ela leman da'omar malam ma'ika lememar. The Gemara says, that's very well according to the opinion that says, ein malamdin, but there's a machlekes that says that we do malamed when it's two ksuvim haboin that are haboin ke'echad. So what are you going to say about that? Man da'omar says yes malamdin. Now, Tosfos points out that indeed everybody would agree when there's 3 psukim, we say malamdim. There's no such machlokes. That's only when there's 2 psukim, but there's a third pasuk. Malam. Take a look at Tosfos. Dibra Masechet Leman Omar Malamdim Ma'ika Lemeimar. Says Tosfos, Have a matzi lishinuye. The Gemara could answer right now. The man Omar Malamdin Sover like Rabbanon. That the one who says malamdim goes like the Rabbanon, and therefore there's 3 psukim whereby we can't learn out to dam. The Rabbi Dois, the Rabban the Rabbi Doisa, the Havaluhu Hashta Shlosh Ksuvin. And therefore they could have answered that over here. Everybody would agree that Ein Malamdin. But the one wants to come out, even according to the opinion of Rabbi Doisa, that does not learn the big day kahuna, therefore you only have 2 psukim. 2 psukim. What are you going to do with the man Omer says that Lamanda Omer that says Malamdim? Answers the Gemara Trey Miute Kesive. There are 2 miutim in the psukim that we quoted before. V'samoy and ha'arufa. In regards to the Trumas Hadeshin, it says the words v'samoy. There it states in the pasuk, v'samoy eitz al mizbeach, and he will place it beside the mizbeach. So there's a mute, an exclusion by saying placing it, only it, is there going to be a problem of me'ilah. And when it comes to the egla arufa, there the pasuk says that they're going to put the Yerchatzu as Yedeim al ha'egla ha'arufa benachal. Could have said ha'egla arufa, but it says ha'egla arufa, that decapitated egel. Mashma again, another mute. Only there's a problem with me'ilah, but everything else, we would not learn out that there's going to be a problem with me'ilah after the performance of the mitzvah. V'hani talsi, now the Gemara says that we learned 3 different opinions, which seem to be not arguing on each other. Each one used a different word from the pasuk to teach me before that there's no me'ilah when it comes to the damim. So Gemara says, "V'hani tlasi kroi bedam lamali." Why do we need 3 different limudim, 3 different words in the pasuk to teach me that there is no me'ilah when it comes to the dam? The Gemara says, "Chad lemuute." Noisar. One is coming to exclude noisar. That means if there was dam that was left over from a carbon, there's an issur of noisar, not to eat noisar, not to leave it over, not to eat it. And if a person did so, and it was dam that he ate, so he will only be chayiv for the dam that he ate, but not for the noisar. As we said earlier, that one is coming to exclude me'ilah, that one is not going to be chayiv for me'ilah of the damim. V'chad lemu'ute mituma, and one is coming to exclude tuma. If a person is in a state of tuma, he's also to eat. He's prohibited to eat kachim, and in this case, if he were to then eat in a state of tuma, the the carbon, normally he's going to be chayiv. He's going to be chayiv kares. But over here, he's excluded. He is excluded from eating in a state of tuma. So here we have another exclusion. So now the Gemara says, "Aval bipigul lo tzorich limutei kro." For pigul, we don't need an exclusion to say he's not going to be chayiv for the pigul. When it comes to the noisar, he's not going to be chayiv for noisar. He's going to be chayiv for eating the dam. When it comes to the me'ilah, he's not going to be chayiv for me'ilah, only for the dam. And when it comes to the state of tumah, he's going to be chayiv for eating dam, but not going to be chayiv for the state of tumah that he's eating the dam with. But now the Gemara points out, "Pigul lo tzorich limutei kro." Pigul, we don't even need a pasuk to exclude pigul. When a person eats pigul, the dam that was mifagil, he was mifagil with the dam, he's not going to be chayiv for the pigul, he'll only be chayiv for the eating of the dam. Why don't we need exclusion? This none, because it says in the following Mishnah, Kol sheyesh loy matirin, anything that has matirin, by another part of the avoida, bein la'adam, bein la'mizbeach, chayav and alav mishum pigul. Let's say, for example, when it comes to the zrikas hadam, only after the zrikas hadam can you go ahead and eat the carbon. And only after the zrikas hadam could the carbon, the evarim, be placed on the mizbeach. So therefore, it states over here in the Mishnah, Kol sheyesh lo matirin, bein la'adam, bein la'mizbeach, chayav and alav mishum pigul. They would be chayav for pigul. If a person, let's say, had in mind to eat the carbon after the throwing of the dam, before the throwing of the dam, and then he ate the carbon, so then he'd be chayiv pigul. So it says over here, "V'dam atzmoi matir." But when it comes to the dam itself, if let's say he would eat dam in a state of pigul, so then dam is something that is itself a matir. So since dam is the matir, we already know that it's excluded from pigul. So if a person eats dam that had pigul, he's not going to be chayiv for the pigul. He'll only be chayiv for the eating of the dam.